Welcome back to the Deep Dive, and today we're going hyper-local.
Hyper-local? What does that even mean?
It means we're diving into news that's so localized, you might not even hear about it unless you live there.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Where are we headed?
We're tuning into Brandermill, Virginia.
Brandermill.
Yeah, we're going through their latest Community Association email update.
Like a virtual community bulletin board.
Exactly. To make it even more fun, let's pretend we're on Brandermill Local Radio, listening to their community update segment. Think Greg Smith and Tanya Roberts.
I love it. Bring on the local news.
All right, Greg, take it away.
These are the Brandermill community updates for the week of February 10th, 2025.
And good morning, Brandermill. Let's start with a recap of that January 27th Board of Directors meeting. Things got a little interesting.
Oh, do tell.
Well, the board did unanimously approve a settlement offer in a legal case, but the details are confidential for now.
Ooh, a little mystery. Well, we'll keep our ears to the ground.
We sure will. Now, another hot topic at that meeting was rental restrictions.
Always a tricky one.
The board is, they're looking into how to manage the number of rental properties in Brandermill.
Trying to find that balance, huh? Property rights and keeping that community feel.
Exactly. And then there was the talk about erosion at Sunday Park.
Sunday Park, what's happening there?
Well, apparently there are concerns that the food truck placement might be making the erosion worse.
Food trucks versus the ecosystem, huh? A tough one.
Now, moving on to what's coming up, we've got a special board of directors meeting this Thursday.
This Thursday? That's February 13th, right?
Yes, February 13th at 6:00 p.m. and it's on Zoom.
Special meeting. Wonder what's so special about it.
We'll have to wait and see. And then don't forget, the next regular board meeting is on Monday, February 24th, also at 6:00 p.m. on Zoom.
Busy month.
It is, and we've got those committee meetings too.
Right, the Architectural Review Committee, they meet twice this month, February 11th and 25th.
And the Finance Committee meets February 12th, and Lifestyle Committee, they meet February 20th.
Got all that. A lot of dates. Most of them are on Zoom though, right?
Yes, all except for the ARC meeting on the 11th. Those are on Zoom. Now, time for the big news. The Board of Directors election.
Yes, the election. It's right around the corner.
4 board positions are open, and we want everyone listening to consider throwing their hat in the ring.
The deadline to be nominated is February 24th. Don't miss it.
And mark your calendars for the candidate Q&A panel. That's happening on March 6th at North Beach.
Get to know your candidates. Ask those tough questions.
Absolutely. And speaking of community engagement, don't forget about those upcoming town hall meetings.
Yeah, those are important.
They'll be talking about the covenant rewrite project.
Yeah.
Could be big changes.
Ooh, rewriting the rules. I'm interested.
Now, a quick reminder. Amenity renewal late fees are now in effect.
Don't delay, folks. Renew those amenities. Avoid those pesky fees.
And a big shout out to the Shadow Ridge neighborhood.
What did they do?
They've been doing an amazing job with their property maintenance. Keep it up, Shadow Ridge.
Setting a good example.
Now, as we're moving into spring, a few reminders from the compliance team. Time to think about those foundation plantings.
Right, make sure everything looks good. Those are required along all street-facing sides of your home, folks.
Got to maintain that curb appeal.
Yeah.
And don't forget about mulch.
Yes, mulch. Important stuff.
All those foundation and planting beds need to be covered with organic wood mulch.
And just a reminder, red mulch is not allowed.
Right. And last but not least, keep those yards tidy.
Spring cleaning, everyone. Let's all do our part to keep Brandermill beautiful.
And finally, some exciting news. Brandermill has a new landscaping partner, Nature's Way Landscaping.
New landscaping team, what can we expect?
Well, they'll be taking care of all those common areas. They start their work in April when grass cutting season begins.
Wow, what a whirlwind of information. Thanks, Greg and Tanya.
I know, right? Who knew there was so much going on in Brandermill?
It's like a microcosm of life in a planned community. All those little details, the rules, the events, it's fascinating.
I'm really curious about that confidential legal settlement. What could it be?
Me too. And that discussion about rental restrictions, that's a topic that's relevant to so many communities these days.
It is, and I'm really interested in those town hall meetings, especially with the covenant rewrite on the agenda. Could be big changes coming to Brandermill.
Sounds like we've got a lot to unpack. It's interesting, right? You get these community updates, and it's like peeking into a whole other world.
It is. All those little things that make up life in a community, it's easy to miss if you're not paying attention.
Like that whole erosion issue at Sunday Park.
Yeah, what about that? Food trucks causing erosion.
It makes you think about how these decisions, about where to put things can have these unexpected consequences.
Absolutely. And it's not just about Sunday Park, right?
Yeah.
It's about thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And then there's that discussion about rental restrictions. That's a big one.
Yeah, a lot of communities are grappling with that these days, trying to find that right balance.
Right. How do you maintain the character of a community while also, recognizing that not everyone can or wants to own a home?
It's a tricky question for sure.
And it's not just a Brandermill thing, it's everywhere. Then you've got that shout out to Shadow Ridge for their awesome property maintenance.
That was nice to hear. Good for them.
Makes you realize how much those individual efforts matter.
Yeah, it creates that sense of pride, right? When
Yeah.
everyone's taking care of their little piece of the community.
And those town hall meetings, I'm really curious about those.
Me too, especially with that covenant rewrite they're talking about.
That could be huge, right? Changing the rules of the game.
Exactly. Makes you wonder what kinds of issues they're going to be tackling.
Well, they did mention it's happening alongside the Board of Directors election, so maybe that's a clue.
Good point. Even though Brandermill seems pretty quiet on the surface, there's definitely a lot going on.
There is. Oh, and we can't forget about that confidential legal settlement.
Right. What is that all about?
So mysterious. Makes you wonder what kind of drama goes down in a place like Brandermill.
Maybe we'll never know.
Maybe not. I'm also curious about that new landscaping company they mentioned, Nature's Way.
Yeah, I wonder what that means for the look of the community.
Right, new landscaping can really change things. Maybe they're going for a more sustainable approach, or maybe it's just time for a refresh.
Could be. It's interesting how something like landscaping can become part of a community's identity,
It is. So any big takeaways for you so far?
Well, I think it's a good reminder that even these little community updates can be surprisingly insightful.
Totally agree. It's like a little window into a whole different world.
And it makes you realize that no matter where you live, there's always something going on, some kind of drama or debate or community spirit.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up this part of our Brandermill deep dive, I just wanted to mention something that really struck me.
Oh, what's that?
It was that little detail about mulch.
Mulch?
Yeah, they mentioned that red mulch isn't allowed.
Oh, right.
I don't know, it just struck me as funny, Like, of all the things to have rules about, the color of your mulch.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing to get hung up on, isn't it?
But it also makes you think about how these seemingly small details, they actually contribute to the overall look and feel of a community.
Right, it's like a little piece of the puzzle.
And it made me wonder, what's the reasoning behind that rule? Is it like an HOA thing? Do they just prefer a certain aesthetic?
I mean, it could be. Or maybe there are environmental reasons. Certain types of mulch might not be good for the local ecosystem.
Interesting. So it's not just about appearances then.
Maybe not. It makes you think about all the other little rules that communities have, right? The things that make them unique.
Yeah, like unwritten rules, unspoken codes.
Exactly. Like in some neighborhoods, you might see everyone has their houses painted in muted colors, or they all have perfectly manicured lawns.
Right. Or maybe there's a certain type of car that's popular, or everyone decorates for the holidays in a similar way.
It's like a subtle way of signaling that you belong, that you're part of the group.
And it's often those little things, those subtle details that really make a place feel like home,
I know what you mean. It creates a sense of familiarity and comfort. It makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
So thinking back to all this Brandermill stuff, I guess it really highlights the power of hyperlocal news, right?
Totally. It gives you this glimpse into a world that you might not otherwise know about.
And it reminds us that even in a place that seems quiet or ordinary, there are always stories to be told.
And lessons to be learned.
Exactly. So next time you see one of those community newsletters or local news websites, don't just toss it aside. Take a minute to actually read it.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
You might learn something new about your own community, or you might just find yourself getting lost in the lives of the people who live there.
Either way, it's a reminder that there's always more to explore, even the most familiar of places.
That's it for our deep dive into Brandermill, Virginia. Thanks for joining us.